The mental health conversation has come to the world of tennis in a very big way. Some really positive takeaways from this, but there's also some harsh realities I think we need to talk about.
I'm JT. I'm in my mid-30s, have a 10-year media career, and nearly a decade of sobriety. So how did another middle-class kid turn into a blackout drunk and a heroin junkie? More importantly, how did it change, and where do we go from here? This is my story.
Okay, so first disclaimer, I am not a big tennis fan. I'm a big sports fan, but tennis is not my strong suit, so I apologize ahead of time if I get any of this wrong. What you're about to get is the Cliff Notes version of a very nuanced situation that's developed over the past week, 10 days. It starts at the French Open with Naomi Osaka, who refused to take questions from reporters. And if you don't know, taking questions from reporters is like part of the whole deal with professional athletes. So everyone's expected to do it. Most professional organizations, professional leagues will institute some kind of fine if you do not participate. She did this because she claimed that getting questions from reporters creates serious anxiety for her, and she needed to do this for her mental health. Well, this was at the French Open, which is one of the Grand Slam tournaments, big deal. And they said they were going to fine her 15 grand every time she didn't take questions. She ends up dropping out. So this has spurred a whole bunch of conversation all the way up into the mainstream press about what she's done here. Most of it has been very positive. A lot of people talking about, her taking a stand, doing the right thing for her mental health. There has also been some pushback, especially from, the sports guy sort of world of, well, if that's part of the job, so if you can't do part of the job, then maybe you shouldn't participate. And I'm just breaking down two of the strong sides. There's a million different takes in between, but these are some of the comments you like to hear. I've even seen some things like tying it into race. You'd probably guess right, I am not getting into that conversation. But some worthwhile stuff to read out there. It also spurred on Roger Federer, the OG, to come out and make some comments about how tennis can do some more things to help tennis players with their mental health. And I think there's some really interesting conversations going on there. And I think it's something it's worthwhile for all of us to follow and consider. So first, I want to start with the really positive stuff that I see here from someone who is constantly managing and seeking the best for my own mental health, because I know that it is something that I live with. There are challenges that I have to face every day. It's part of my daily walk, right? So the first thing here that I do think is a positive is setting boundaries. So for me, and again, I'm always trying to put my own perspective here, okay? I haven't walked in her shoes. This is just my perspective. Setting boundaries is a really important thing for me in my sobriety. It's one of the most important things that I learned and implemented early on. Very difficult. So like a boundary that I set, I've talked about this before, was family time. My mom, for example, a woman that I loved more than life itself, I had to set a timer on the amount of time that I could spend with my mother, the person who quite literally pulled me from the depths of addiction and was the only family member that was right there by my side every step of the way to help me get sober. And we couldn't even stand to be in the same room with each other a lot of times. So whenever I had a family function, I had a timer that I would kind of be on to go, okay, these are my trigger points. This is what I need to know. I need to get out of here. As much as I would love to stay, I just know like the longer I'm here, the closer me and mom are to a blow up. Another thing I've talked to you about, going to spend time specifically with my dad's family. I always get a hotel because I've experienced too many times when I don't have a place to retreat to and I'm not in my own home and safe space. It can get real dicey when the S hits the fan from a family perspective and there's all the triggers going off and I don't have anywhere to escape to or retreat to. So those are some of the examples of my boundaries that I set. So what I do think is good here is that if someone is recognizing that they have mental health issues and they are saying, I am not going to do this, because that is a very healthy thing. Where it gets complicated is where this is someone's job. And not only is it someone's job, it is a job that the 0.00001% of humans ever get to do, and therefore get paid a lot of money to do that. And one of the reasons they get paid so much money is because everyday people like you and I like to watch and participate in them playing this sport. And part of that is getting access to them through the media to get a peek inside the curtain. It's all very, if you've ever watched press conferences, they're really as behind the curtain as the athlete wants them to be. There's a lot of latitude given to the athletes with this stuff. So that's where it becomes complicated, because here's the other side of the experience I'll give you. There is always a sacrifice to be made when you set boundaries. That's my experience. There is always a downside. So for me, what was one of the downsides of I have to set this timer with my mom? Well, number one, I feel guilty a little bit at the beginning. I had to get used to that, about why can't I just, spend all the hours of the day as long as, is needed with my mom. And then it became very difficult when I had to show up for my mom all the time when she was very sick, and deal with those things that were so complicated before when she wasn't on her deathbed. And now I have to find ways to work through those boundaries for my own health when I need to be with her even more. So that's just an example from my side. There's always a sacrifice. When I have set boundaries, there's always a sacrifice. When my mental health is the ultimate goal, things are going to fall by the wayside in order to get to that goal. And you've seen in many of my videos me talk about the different things that I've lost along the way. And I struggle with them daily. Have I made the right decisions? Did I screw that up? And, just yesterday I was thinking about these things and going, no, I have to remind myself. And sometimes it takes me going to a meeting or talking to one of my friends in the program, which I did both this past weekend, which was great, to realize what is really the most important thing of my sobriety that I should know all the time, besides that I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict and I can't use or drink, but is that me staying sober is the number one thing in my life. So whatever has to go into me staying sober, I have to be okay with the consequences, the potential downsides that come along with me going in pursuit of that ultimate goal. There's also another thing I want to bring up here in terms of this being in the context of someone's job. And I work in a job that's not near as highbrow as being a professional athlete. But I do work in a job where there's a lot of scarcity, right? There will always be far more supply for my job as a media personality than there will be demand. So in other words, there's always, the day that I decide that this is no longer for me, there's someone coming right in the door that's going to do it, and I'll probably do it for less than I did it for, right? I know from having a job like that, and really this could go into any job or any facet of mental health or sobriety, but this is one of the tools that I've learned from the program, from getting sober, from recovery. It's a saying that goes like this: it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. You can literally put that saying into any facet of mental health, sobriety, recovery, life, for that matter. Think about it in terms of sobriety. In my case, addiction, being an alcoholic. I was born with that. I also, went into a path early on in my life that was probably I had very little control over that led me to that lifestyle. There's probably nothing that I could have done to not end up a drunk and a drug addict. But once I've discovered this and I've come to terms with that, it is my responsibility to deal with it going forward. That's the same with my character defects, my selfishness, my temper. I have to recognize that this is who I am. I should not feel terrible guilt and shame about it being who I am because I was born this way, but it is my responsibility to deal with it. So on one hand, in the case of Naomi Osaka, she is making it her responsibility. She's saying, I am not going to do this part because it causes me this terrible anxiety. And if it's going to cause all this commotion and trouble, then I'm just not going to participate because my mental health is more important. That I respect. I totally respect. On the other hand, if she wants to do her job, that is a very sought after job that people are going to have opinions on and criticism of, and get paid a lot of money to do it, then she is going to probably have to find a way to work through this part. And there are a lot of things about my job, or have been about my job over the years, that I've been doing it for, 11 years, that were probably not the best for my mental health. I can think of some specific times in particular where I very much knew I am living close to the edge, and if I just quit my job, I would be in a much safer and healthier space. And that was an extreme, and I probably should have, to be honest with you. I probably rode it a little too close to the edge. But there's other times in my career where I have to say, this is tough, but I'm going to get through this because I love what I do and I want to keep doing it. And I'm going to find a way. I'm strong enough at nearly 10 years sober. I have the resources. I have the tools in my tool chest to figure this out and work my way through it. So I would just consider those perspectives. Those are my perspectives as it relates to the mental health conversation that's come to tennis. And again, not walking in Naomi Osaka's shoes or any professional athlete's shoes, but that's just what I have to offer. And I'll also say, I don't know what Osaka's experience with, if she has any experience with addiction or sobriety. I don't think she does. This is where the mental health and the sobriety thing, there are lines of delineation where they're part of the same thing, but then also there's some very stark differences. I don't know if she has these same tools and resources that I've been granted through alcohol and drug addiction recovery that she has through her mental health process. I hope she does, because some of these things are great and can be applied across the board. And on that note, let's get the mail. Okay, first piece of mail today is, we've had some great mail over the past couple of weeks. A lot of it because the video about divorce and John Mulaney from a few weeks back, I don't know, people keep finding it somehow. It's getting close to 5,000 views. Thank you guys so much. It's awesome. It's so great that more people are coming to the channel because of that. This comes from TT996112. She says, I love that you don't pick sides in this. Your viewpoints make a lot of sense, and I respect you for striving to make this an unbiased take. Thank you, TT. I really appreciate that. Look, I just tried to do that right here again. I definitely don't try to take sides. Some of the subjects that I talk about, I guess there could be a side to take. Some of them, I don't even think there really is a side to take. There's just my perspective. But I'm certainly striving to only bring my perspective. I don't know if that's always going to be the case. There may be a subject one day along the road where I do have a bias. I do take a side. I don't know what that is. We'll see if that comes up. But until that day, I'll certainly try to do what I always tell you I'm trying to do. And again, if you see me not doing it, I'll be happy to incur that feedback that you have. But what I'm trying to do is only offer my perspective through my own lens with these subjects as a jumping off point into it. So thank you for the mail, TT. I appreciate it. Next piece of mail is coming from Kidders with a Z. Kidders says, I stumbled across your channel and I'm not an addict per se. You're welcome anyways. Happy to have you and anyone, whether you're an addict or not. I did go to rehab for self-injury long ago. When I came out 30 days later and came home, I realized immediately my husband was detrimental to my recovery. I think she means that in a negative way. I saw codependency, been there, but not due to substance abuse. It happens. Codependency, like my dad, for example, several people in my lineage are not addicts, but have serious codependency, and it comes my way via the addict side and the not addict side. We divorced 5 years later after 24 years of marriage with 2 children. Being able to step outside that dysfunctional relationship, parent to child, he and I have been able to co-parent, heal, and forgive one another. Today, our children are in college, and my ex and I are good friends with healthy boundaries. Okay, a long journey, a hard journey, but a great ending. And an incredible job on the writing. You summed that up really well in just a few sentences. Maybe you should look into a blogging career yourself, Kidders. But welcome. Glad to have you, whether you're an addict or not. Thank you for sharing your experience and your journey. I think you really touch on some important stuff there for all of us, because it's not just addiction that can lead to serious strains on relationships and our own personal lives and our own health and wellness. Okay, these diseases, the mental health issues that can be in our lineages, in our genetics, they can come from all sorts of places and they can do all sorts of damage. So I think it's really important. That's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about what I talked about today, is because, I don't want this to just be about alcoholism and addiction and recovery through that, but I deal with lots of things on a day-to-day basis that are just through the lens of my own wellness and trying to get better, not specifically just because I'm an alcoholic and an addict. Although, as I pointed out before with the Osaka story, I do feel prepped to deal with those things outside of my own addiction, alcoholism, because I have these awesome tools from recovery that I just feel like I can implement in all these different places. Although, and I'm getting a little meta here, it really probably does all stem from I view it through that lens anyways, that all of it really goes back to my alcoholism anyways, but that's neither here nor there. Thank you for your feedback and your comment, Kidders. If you would like to be part of the mail, please feel free to comment here on this video or any of the other videos on the channel. Right now I'm seeing them all, so you can comment on any of them. I'll get a notification. We'll see how long that lasts. You can feel free to reach out to me on any of the following social media channels. You can comment on a post. You can DM me. Anything you send in a DM can stay between us. Just let me know. I will not post anything from a DM without asking first. Anything that is commented on here on the videos or on my social media feeds is fair game, but we would love to hear from you and for you to be part of the next mail. All right, we'll see you next time. Hey family, if you like what we're doing here and you want to see more, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Share it with someone who you think might benefit from watching this, and feel free to comment below. Love.